Fog Entertainment back with another recently released movie review. Apparently, I looked it up. This is one of the most anticipated movie releases of the year. Evil Dead Rise, and it is a horror movie. It is about an hour and 45 minutes long. Seen it last night. I believe the box offices did 48.5 million. We have cheese grater scenes. We have all the sorts, man. It's like ECW. It's like Tommy Dreamer against Raven. But anyway, I digress. We're going to dive into the movie and we meet the cast. Well, I say we meet the cast. We actually kick off the movie with these three people, right? Your typical, you've got two girls, one's ill, one's sitting playing. You hear this like thing coming towards her. It turns out it's a drone. Oh my god, it's a drone. Then you just get the typical white jock boyfriend who's messing about. And he's like, I gave her some pills, she's alright. Turns out she's no alright because the wee girl goes in, her cousin, and yeah, she starts reading her book. She's possessed, and then she goes over to her, and then what happens? We get like the first like bit of brutality of the movie. She rips her scalp off, man. Oh, brutal, brutal, brutal. It was not good, but yeah, boom, scalp ripped off. Then she goes back out to the pier. He's wondering like what the fuck happened. And then she grabs the infected one, basically Jessica grabs the drone and basically cuts her face and falls into the river, right? And I get it, it's your girlfriend. Don't know how long, like, to be honest. It looks like, I mean, this guy just doesn't really give a fuck. But he doesn't give a fuck. He jumps into this lake after somebody that's just ripped somebody's scalp off and cut their own face with razor blades off the drone. So fair play to him, he goes in, but then he ends up dying, and then Jessica rises from the water and starts chasing her cousin. But then we cut to black and we get introduced to a new bunch of people. With Ellie, she's the mom. We've got Beth, who's her sister, who's pregnant. We have Danny, with Bridget, and with Cassie. Now, Danny is transgender. I don't know if Bridget is transgender, but I know for a fact the actor that plays Danny is. Cassie is just like a innocent, like 10-year-old, 8-year-old kid, and all that good stuff. So, yeah, I guess we gotta move on to the rest of the characters. So, I mean, you've met the family, right? And I'll be honest, right? They're not exactly like there was never like, oh yes, I'm transgender and I'm proud in this movie, right? Sort of ordeal going on. But it is like it is just forced. It is just forced in movie castings, right? Because we're introduced, right, to like four more people, two kids, typical stoner white kid, even though he you know, and this other wee kid who's just not very big. He's just a wee white kid, just two typical nerdy white kids. I'll say white kid. I think one of them was actually called Taiwano. Well, that's the actor, like, so Asian, right? So yeah, and then the only other white guy in this movie, bar the jock, right at the beginning, is some old guy, fat out of shape old guy that has a gun. You see that how they just try and portray white people as bad, and they just force their agendas, like the transgenders and, you know, strong female leads and all that stuff. Like, personally, it wasn't actually that bad of a movie, and I don't want to like get sidetracked, but it's exactly what happens in Hollywood now. You know what? This movie was probably as good as you could get a movie while forcing these agendas. But yeah, I thought I had to address that because it's just a trend in Hollywood. When you go woke, you go broke. And yeah, this is like all these movies. Like, literally. But would I say that Lily Sullivan, who played the other sister, did a good job? Yeah, and so did Alisa Sutherland, who played the mom. She's the mom, man. She did a good job and all. I feel like those two did a good job. And you know what? The kids as well did a good job. But, you know, they just force these agendas down your throat. But then again, apparently one in every seven kids are like teens slash young adults in America is LGBT. So maybe for every seventh person in a movie, they need to be something. You get me? Anyway, into the plot of this movie though, and essentially there's an earthquake after they go to get pizza. We've got Beth and Ellie about to talk about their recent divorce, for Ellie's divorce, but no, there's an earthquake. Oh no! Then there's a hole in the ground. So Danny's like, you know what? I'm gonna go in here. The trans man is going to go straight in here. He identifies as a boy, so yeah, that's what he is. He goes down. He opens a book. Turns out it's the Evil Dead book. We all know what the book is. It's iconic. And then they bring it up, and then he cuts himself on the book, and then the book absorbs his blood. Like later in the apartment, you can kind of just tell at this point, right, that's fucked. And then when Ellie, the mum, tries to go in the elevator because the book has been opened and the music player's been played with the record, the whole priests are preaching. It comes for the house and it infects her in the elevator. Pretty brutal fucking scene. Of course, in the original Evil Dead Rise, it actually like penetrates her. If you know, you know. But here, I didn't think they would do that, and maybe they did. Maybe they did. I'm not too sure. Hopefully they didn't. Anyway, yep. She comes back in. She starts frying eggs. She's like, "I'm gonna kill all you fucking kids." And then yeah, that's basically the point where we get her going ballistic. She dies. And then they're like, "Oh no!" And then like the neighbors come in. We've got Gabrielle, who thought actually did a pretty good job in this movie. The fly lands on Ellie's eye, and she's like, turns out she's still awake, and he's like, "All right, let's do a prayer." And then him and the fat guy with the shotgun leave. And then Ellie comes alive and like really, I mean, this was like, I feel, see, if you don't know Evil Dead, then you'll probably think this was like very like, you know, cringy, and it was cringy. Like, I think that's the whole gimmick of the movies. I think it worked though when it was Bruce Campbell. I think when you've got other people it doesn't really work, because throughout this movie, like, they've just lost their mum, right? They lose their sister, and then Danny, whoever he is. So but you don't get the feeling in this movie that these people have just lost family members. Like, I get it. The family members are kind of just possessed, even though, I mean, they are dead. Look at the injuries they're getting, right? But you never really get the feeling in this movie that they're actually mourning. I feel like they did a poor job of that. I feel like in actual horror movies, when people die, it's like a big deal. I feel like in this, they didn't. But anyway, maybe that's just me um, being picky. But then we get like the cheese grater scene, which I actually don't think was that bad. People say, "Oh, it's disgusting." Like, but it leaves like a claw mark. It's not like the cheese grated someone's skull. Like, the scalping was much worse. There's a scene where she gets stabbed through the hand with a bit of glass. Beth, again. But then, what's her name? Bridget. She gets stabbed with a tattoo gun in the side of her face, and then they manage to throw Ellie outside and lock the door. But who's outside? We've got Gabrielle, the guy with the shotgun. We've got Ben, the two kids. So the two kids, right? One just gets absolutely fucking his arms ripped off. The other one ends up choking on an eyeball that Ellie bit out of Gabrielle's dome. Absolutely insane. And then the guy with the shotgun shows up. He gets like a couple of shots in, but then eventually he dies. And then at this point, this is where Bridget starts turning infected. But again, it's stupid because like about 15 minutes pass here, and then no one's like wondering where's Bridget. Ridiculous. And then we get the scene with Bridget where she comes after him, but they manage to deal with her and tie her down. But then Bridget comes after Danny again. Danny gets stabbed in the arm, he gets stabbed in the chest, but he manages to like fire the spray that sets the cooker alight and it burns Bridget. But like, see, at this point, nothing. Like, you, I don't understand why they think, "Oh, that's them done." You need to like see if it was me, right, in a situation that these things are possessed. You need to do more than just stabbing them. Like, you need to like dismember them, and that's what it says. Like, "Oh, total body dismemberment." That's what you need to do. That's exactly what you need to do. But Ellie looks up at where the cat's in the fence. She's like, "I'm going to come in there." Then we get like another showdown. But eventually, Danny dies, and then it's just Ellie, Danny, and Bridget going after the wee kid and Beth. But again, Beth's about to get her fucking unborn child ripped out here by Ellie, but it's stupid, right? So she's sitting there listening to the passages, trying to figure out a way how to defeat this, right? And she's just sitting there while knowing that you've got Bridget outside that's infected, Ellie outside that's infected, and a whole. Surely it'd be like, "Right, Danny and Cassie, come in here, and I'll listen to this. Will you let me know if anything's happening, and if there is, poke me so I can help you." And like, there's no attempt to even fucking escape from the building. You could open windows, get curtains, try and make like a bridge down, climb down, do something. Would you fuck want to stay in this building? But then Beth and Ellie manage to get to the elevator after like some more scary shit. Because everyone else is dead, damn it. The elevator starts filling with blood, but then the big demon creature, Ellie, Bridget, and Danny have combined. The elevator opens at the bottom floor. They try to get out to the car, but the car's just not working. And then they manage to get through the gate, but no, the big creature grabs Cassie back through the gate, and then the Beth goes after her. And then we get the scene where Beth basically just brings it down. Some good horror here, I'll admit. And then the wood chipper scene, where she pushes the creature in, bang, the blood goes everywhere, good night. And then they manage to escape. She picks up the chainsaw and the gun and walks off, kind of similar to Bruce Campbell all those years ago. And then we also get the scenes with Jessica, the girlfriend, starting. You could just tell, like, right, the show's at the start, so obviously something's going to happen. She gets to her car, she says, I will pick you up, cousin, a few 10 minutes, big man. And then what happens? She gets possessed. But again, does that mean this just entire building block's possessed? Or, like, what's going on? Because, like, they destroyed the creatures, but what is it? Because the book is still in the building, this entire building's possessed? I don't know. And what about the people that are on that block, like Gabrielle and the old guy that and Ben and shit and Scott? Are they all still possessed just on that block? And also, I mean, how the fuck were the police not called? I know it's the top floor, but that's some weird shit to listen to. Anyway, you know what? It was stupid. It was crazy. There was gore. The story was alright, I guess. But yeah, you know what? I'll get a 6 out of 10. It was alright. For this day and age, it's probably as good as one of these wee cheap horror movies he's going to get.